All right, all right, all right. Hello, hello. Tracy Noriega here, paying it forward to you on this episode of Power to the Peeps. PEEPS stands for Positive, Extraordinary, Everyday People Stories. And today we have Sasha G in the house representing all the teachers in New York City and beyond. Thank you, Sasha, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, geez. I mean, teachers right now are so well, I think we've realized that they are the essential worker, right? How many people have really realized the worth of teachers? I think even kids, I know our kiddo was like, got to a point, I want to go back to school, you know, and not realizing what teachers really do every day. It's not just, babysit our kids, but the educating and and parents now have had to fill in those shoes and just minutely and see like to the extreme and the how much teachers are doing.
Yeah.
So thank you for your service, because I believe teachers are really the heroes on the back lines, keeping all this stuff. But were you always like drawn to teaching? I mean, you have quite an extensive teaching background. So I wanted to ask, was that like innately in you? I want to be a teacher.
Um, that's a funny question. Yeah, because a lot of people I know in teaching switch careers and go into
Yeah.
teaching, but I knew I wanted to be a teacher since I was, well, first I knew I wanted to work with children since I was a kid myself. So I was a child myself, having like this passion for working with children. And then when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Honestly, it wasn't an original thought. It was my parents who wanted me to be a doctor. So I just kind of
Mm,
put that on. And I was like, sure, I can be an MD. I wanted to be a pediatrician. I interned at different hospitals working with pediatrics and helping kids. But I just knew that my passion didn't come from being at a hospital, which I actually hated. I didn't really care for it. It was working with kids. And so when I really asked myself, when I entered college and I went to Stony Brook University, which is like very science heavy, and I was like, yeah, they have a medical program and a medical school on campus, a hospital on campus. And it was there that I realized this is not what I want to do.
mm. Well, that's great. You did. And so how did it finally come along and you accept it and tell your parents, no, I'm going to be an educator?
Um, so I took a few science courses, which I was like, it was dreadful. And then I realized I really loved literature. So it was really through my love of like reading and writing and exploring and questioning and having amazing dialogue and interpreting literature that I was like, I can really pursue this. And then in my mind, like, how can I combine that, this idea or this love of like thinking things through, critical thinking,
Mhm.
dialogue with other people, interpreting literature. How do I combine that with like my love of children? Because I knew I needed to work with kids.
Mhm.
Some way I needed to work with kids. And teacher just seemed like a logical thought.
Right,
Then
right.
when we put it together and I redefined my major, I thought about like my childhood and like even when I was a kid myself, I have a younger brother, 2 years younger, I would sit him down and play teacher all the time. So it was really funny because when I started thinking about like when I was a kid and things I would do and the relationships I had with my elementary school teachers, it kind of made sense. So everything kind of like fit like a puzzle when I finally decided like that's
Mhm.
what I wanted to do.
Okay. Well, one of the things I found really interesting about your, how would you say, your journey into teaching was that you didn't go straight into teaching. You went and took a master's before going teaching. You want to explain about that and your little background there?
Yeah, that's I know. So in my undergrad, I actually was a student teacher because everyone has to be a student teacher. So I did work within. I actually went back to my old high school and worked in my old high
Oh, wow.
as a student teacher, which was interesting. And then I got scared. Like I have to say, I was
Mm,
scared to enter a classroom. I was young.
yeah.
I wanted originally to go into working as a high school teacher, so that was my original idea.
Mhm.
And once I did that, student teaching honestly scared me.
Mhm. It is scary.
I was not ready. I just was not ready. And I took a year after undergrad. And what I ended up doing instead was taking a position in um, an organization called Champion Learning Center, which was actually an organization that was funded by the state of New York. And it was completely free for parents and students. And what they would do is send one-on-one tutors to
Mhm.
a child's home.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible job. Like, paid me well. I already had a degree. I already had a teacher certification. I was just
Mhm.
scared to go into the classroom. And I was like, I'm going to take a year. I'm going to do this. And honestly, it happened for a reason because it taught me so much. Like,
Yeah.
in working with kids one-on-one in their home with their
Mhm.
families, it was just such a different experience. And then after that, after a year of that, I decided to go back to grad school, and I pursued a literacy education degree because I wanted to be a reading specialist because I love that one-on-one with
Mhm.
kids who were not reading at grade level, who were reading
Mhm.
severely below grade level. So I'm like, I can make a big impact with that. That attracted me more than having the whole classroom of teachers. I
Yeah,
mean,
you could definitely hear and sense, and even on your Instagram with your love of books and wanting to give that love to kids too. So I
yeah.
really admire that. So, I mean, I had a very short stint in education, thinking right out of it, I wanted to teach as well. And like you, I thought high school. And as you too, being straight out of high school and taking classes, I was like, I don't think I could do it. So I did middle school. Oh my gosh, those middle schoolers, I think they are almost worse. They're like, I was like, oh my God. But one of the things, I saw when I was there, and this is, decades ago, um, was that there was this movement of teaching. I was thinking teaching, oh, like what you were saying, I get to introduce these concepts and have these discussions and all this stuff. And what I was witnessing was it was just all geared to taking tests, aptitude tests and scores. And if our school doesn't get these scores, then we don't get this funding. And if these teachers don't get this certain thing, and it just seemed so heavy on the teachers. It did not seem fun for the students. It wasn't really teaching them critical thinking and stuff. And I saw that then, and what's going on with that now? I know you speak a lot about curriculum, and how it's this big, big to do that really is very empty. And I feel that. I saw that then, and I just I left because I was like, I don't think I can do this. So what do you see as an educator, having been now in the school system, and what do you see that's posing for these teachers right now, and what can happen to shift that?
Well, I don't think much has changed from what
Yeah.
you just described, unfortunately. I think it really sucks the fun out of teaching.
Yeah.
It really sucks the fun out of what teaching can be. But it really depends on leadership. And that's one of the things that I'm really critical of, but also ask a lot and explore a lot of these ideas in education, like what is good leadership? And unfortunately, I don't feel like I've ever um, I haven't had too many experiences with good leadership because the message
Mm,
is everything, right? And I don't think that a test, as it stands alone, is inherently evil.
mm,
What we do with that, how we message it to teachers, how we make it how we come from such a limited place, like leadership, school leadership, and so they suck the fun out of education, and
mm,
then it's daunting, it's burdensome for teachers. Then they feel like they can't just be creative and expressive, and there
mm.
are teachers who hold on to that, right? But it's very exhausting,
Yeah.
super
Yes.
exhausting. So I can have like a very vibrant, fun, creative perspective in teaching. Usually we start out that way. And then to maintain that requires so much energy because
Mm,
you're not in a space that supports it. You're not in a space that's conducive to it. So for you to be able to sustain that, either A, maybe you don't have a family, you don't have kids, because God forbid, right? Because that also requires a lot of energy. But you have to put in so much of yourself in a
mm,
space that does not support it and doesn't perpetuate it. And that's what teacher burnout is all about, right?
yeah.
Because you're a teacher who's trying to give your best, who wants these amazing connections with kids, who want to create a space that they can be creative and trust themselves and learn and explore. And when for some reasons your numbers are a little skewed,
Mm,
you're not living to these expectations that maybe you weren't even privy to.
yeah.
You get backlash, and then it's just you get no support, there's no appreciation.
Yeah.
You don't get conversations. I mean, in my experience, it's never been like, Sasha, you're doing an amazing job. Keep
Yeah.
doing it. Always a conversation of you're not doing enough. You need, even if
Yeah.
it's not directly stated, that's
Right.
feeling. That's the energy in these schools. You're not doing enough. There's more to do. Kids are not learning. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not true. I mean, sometimes it's not
Well,
true.
and then you have to deal with the behavior, right, in the classrooms too. And then, I mean, if anything, I think all that's happened in the pandemic has exacerbated and really shown a light on what teachers are having to go through. And hopefully it'll make it that there has to be some change because people are realizing the sizes of their classrooms, the teachers are being expected to do, like what they're being paid on top of that, right? The fact you hear about teachers, I mean, I have one next door and she's absolutely great, but that they're like digging in their own pockets for stuff to bring to school for supplies. It's just like that is, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, one of the things so all this happens, a teacher comes in with all this great, like, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to, inspire kids and help educate them and open their eyes. And then you've pointed out a lot in your Instagram too. And, I mean, it's prevalent everywhere. What happens? Complaining, right? All of the energy now goes into, what I can't do, why I can't do what I'm, the limitations I have, etc. And you talk a lot about mindset. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's going on for all these teachers right now. Like, what is your biggest, mindset shift that can help them empower themselves when they're feeling like they're behind the eight ball all the time?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I can say is you have more control than you think you do.
Yeah.
And period. Like you
Yeah.
have more control than you think you do. And teachers that I work with, I just try to empower them with that because they don't believe it. And
Right.
I understand why a teacher wouldn't believe it because you're looking at your physical environment and you're getting messages from leadership, you're getting messages from the news, like everything, right? Society, really, just how we view education and the teacher role
Mhm.
in our society. But yeah, you have more control than you think you do. You really do. And you need to know your worth because you are special. You are.
Right. They are, and we need to keep them. I mean, we really do. They're so valuable. So you have a very interesting role, and you were explaining, and I don't know if it actually exists in all of the school districts across the states, but the role that you play, and now how you've incorporated your own, skill set and gifts and such. Do you want to explain what that is, like what the role is, and what now you've created it to be, and what you hope, yeah, to do with that?
And this is really exciting for me because so let me explain. So in my school I transitioned into actually during this pandemic, I trantioned into what we call a curriculum specialist or curriculum supervisor role, which means that I teach ELA well and I know the curriculum well, therefore I can coach another teacher in the implementation of that
Mhm.
curriculum. So that includes like knowing the curriculum, knowing your content, right? I teach ELA, so knowing ELA, and then just using the teacher practices best
Yes.
practices to to teach the curriculum to students.
Mhm.
Okay, that's essentially what the role is. And one thing that for me, even as a teacher, I never felt like I had support. And even when
Mhm.
I had a dean or I never had a teacher coach, but whenever I had someone who I would call my supervisor or boss or whatever the case was, the conversations was always around teacher practices. It was always around
Mhm.
curriculum. It was never about me as an individual, as a person, my dreams, aspirations, my purpose, what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
how I saw myself in this role. It was never about that. It was never a conversation about who I was as a human. It was
Mhm.
always about the identity of a teacher, only in a very limited perspective on teacher practices and curriculum. So when I got into a role where I could help teachers, I had some sort of connection with teachers, and I met with teachers. Um, I knew that I could do something different, and I had to do something different. There was nothing I could do.
Well, if you want something different, you have to do something different,
Exactly.
right?
I was like, it would be insane if I continued to do this. So
Yeah.
I completely restructured it.
Mhm.
There is a lot of pushback. I
Mhm.
continuously feel pushback, but I don't care. Like it is what it is. And I started incorporating some amazing tools, healing tools that actually helped me in my life, kept me going. And what really brought me to this place, so that included meditations. So I would normally start a meeting with a meditation, a checking in. And, you know, it was interesting that teachers were a lot more open than I thought they were. I thought it would take some convincing or I would get some pushback, but they've been amazing. And I start every coaching session or one-on-one meeting or professional learning community meeting, whatever it is, however your school calls it. I started with meditation. I started with check-in. And I actually, because I'm an energy healer, I check into what they need because I see it in their energy field, right? And one thing that I see often is, especially with the teachers I work with now, is stress, right? You feel like this, what ends up happening is that I feel like this heaviness, this pressure on my chest, and teachers feel that. And then like insecurities, right? Because they don't feel like they're doing a good job. They don't feel secure in the role that what they're doing. They don't feel appreciated, and that's internalized, and that's what they feel about themselves. And what ends up happening is that they carry that to other parts of their lives too. It's not just in education, right? Because we're not just teachers. We're humans. We're humans with actual emotions. And so who we show up as at my job, at whatever it is that I do, is how I show up anywhere else. It doesn't matter. Like, it's how I show up with my kids. It's how I show up with my friendships, relationships that I make in this space, right? The teaching space, the education space. I take that with me. So I was like, there's no way, I have to. So I check in with them. I see, I see what they need. I hear, listen, right? Sometimes we're not even listened to. So for me, it's a really big point to listen to what teachers are saying, to really interpret what they're saying, understand what they're saying, do a meditation, lots of relaxation techniques and tools. We do a lot of journaling. That's really important. I've done envisioning meditations with them as well. So it's really important for us as a team, if we're working together. And I really call it like a sacred circle with the teachers. Because I feel like we all have to, our vision has to align. And then we can all bring our individual talents because we're all unique. So we don't have to be the same. And I think that's the same for teachers. We definitely are not the same people. We don't bring the same talent. We don't bring in the same energy, but we all should have the same vision of how we want to feel in our classrooms, how we want our students to feel, how it looks for us, how it looks for them. And that's essentially the foundation of how I coach teachers. And then we can talk about teacher practices, and then we can talk about observations, and then I can talk about curriculum. But I have to set a foundation of, you are a human. I'm going to meet you where you are, not just the kind of teacher you are, but where you are as a woman, a mother, a friend, a partner, a wife, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So, I mean, those teachers who have you honestly are very blessed to have somebody who's cutting edge like that, and also knows, because how many times do we get people from the outside to come in and tell you how to do your job and they've never done it? And it's just that's maddening to me. It's like, please don't tell me how to do my job when you've never done it. It's like, so, I mean, you bring that, which is just so invaluable. So you are, from what I understand too, this extends beyond where you work in your school. You're extending these offerings, these gifts, this teacher coaching to anyone who wants to reach out to you. So you don't need to be, now is the wonder of the World Wide Web, and now that we've all been forced to be virtual in order to not spread. So what are you offering there? Because I know you're doing it for teachers, helping with, but then also expanding, as you mentioned, you've realized these spiritual gifts that you have, your teacher gifts that you have, but your spiritual gifts that you have, and these energetic healing that you're able to do, and you're wanting to do it not just for teachers, but for women in general who want to transform. So do you want to speak about that so people who are following you know, what it is you're offering, what you do, what you make available to them?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been great to be doing this work with teachers. I really feel like I'm a revolutionary in that sense. And just know that when you are pushing against the status quo and you are revolutionizing with something a system that is so archaic and deeply rooted, you are going to get some pushback, right? So it's not just like, oh, I'm doing this, and it really does require work. And healing is the same, right? And the teachers that I work with, I'm fortunate enough that I see that they want to do this work, and lots of teachers feel that way. Lots of women feel that way. Like I know that I'm not feeling good where I am, whether I'm a teacher or not. There are things about my life that just don't feel right. And that's how I felt in teaching, and that's how I felt in life a few years ago. It's just, from the outside looking in, it seems like I got it all together. Like you have the degrees, I have a job, like I self-sustaining, like, I'm good. But I felt like I'm just not happy. There's something not right. There's something that's not aligning. And it's difficult to say that, to share that with people from the outside looking in, because they're like, what are you talking about? You have it all together. But I know that it's something that women experience a lot. And I've experienced it myself. And I'm here with the tools, with the energetic tools, but also tangible tools that you can do that really helps you. So I can absolutely help women, guide them through self-healing. So I do have like one-on-one energy calls, where I can like read your energy and I can help you move forward, give you some next steps, and you can, guide your own self-healing, and I can provide the tools for that. I also have meditations that I do that you can tune in. I also have like intensive coaching. So if you want someone, if you're like, I'm in this work, I'm going to do this work, I know that this is going to be the year of transformation for me, then you can work with me coaching one-on-one for an entire month or 3 months, depending on what you need. So we can always hop on a call. We can always do an energy reading. We can always discuss. And I know it's transformational. And I see my teachers that I work with now, and they're like, Tasha, you're amazing. Like, I'm so blessed to work with you. But the unfortunate part in education too, right, is that I can create a sacred space, but the entire system, the entire school across the nation is not there. And so that's why a lot of my work as well, not only with energy healing and coaching women who really want to transform their lives, but it's also transforming education.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. And I know so many people see the need for that. I mean, it's just, we're not reaching every kid. And the fact, like, they make these programs saying, no child left behind, but how many are we actually leaving behind? Right. And, I mean, yeah, I know. If you get me on my soapbox too, to me, I would still feel that education is separate but equal. I don't really feel like Brown versus education has that. And now I don't. It's now you use it, instead of using race as it, you use as your socio-geographical, economical barriers. And now that dictates, because if it really,
It's a race too, right?
yeah, right. It ties to it, but you don't say it, because now it's by the boundaries of that neighborhood. So now you just, you code it with something else. But the fact remains, in my mind, if I'm really going to digest what I learned in our Constitution of what equal is, if you're going to say, separate but equal doesn't cut it, well, then all the schools all across the nation should have the same amount of computers available. They should have the same amount of books. I mean, there should be no teacher having to go into their own pocket to go reach in to this. It doesn't matter what school district you're in or what neighborhood you're in. I mean, the fact that even there's such disparity within the same school district is, I was one of those kids that got bused, to try to, how they were trying to desegregation within our own school districts. So then I was getting sent, pure on the other side, to even up, the makeup. But it still wasn't even as what you had when you went into the school. So they all were, this disparity between them. So, I mean, we could go on, but what is it that you envision, since you've been in the trenches, you've been working that, you've got this, not only an evolved educator as what you've seen and experienced, but also your education in the masters, and now doing this, teaching the teachers. What do you envision of how can we, like, what what can we do to make a step towards that direction?
Yeah. This question is always like I get butterflies. Honestly, it's so exciting because before I would think it was daunting. Before, like my mindset has shifted so much that if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would say, forget it. Like there's no chance.
Mm.
Now I'm like, no, absolutely. Like we can transform, actually revolutionize it, right? Because we're not just changing within the system, we're like creating an entire new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I really feel like it starts within, just like
Mm-hmm.
anything, right? Just like anything, because our systems, they exist, right? Systems are systems, but it's the people that create the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we think about education, sometimes we're like, oh, they create this. Who's
Mm-hmm.
they? We're they. We're
Yeah.
they. It's for us. Like as a teacher, let me look at how I feel about my students, and I'm guilty of this as well. And it's not to shame teachers, right? Because we never want to shame or judge. I never want to shame or judge anyone, but we need to look at what we've done, admit that it's not okay. Whether we
Mm-hmm.
thought about a certain student in a certain way because of their race, these are things that need to be brought to the forefront so we can allow healing to happen, because education needs to heal, right? It's a system just like any in this country, but education is the one that I care about, that we haven't allowed healing to happen. And so we're coming from a system that was built, like many systems in this country, on hate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like separate but equal. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the remnants, and it wasn't that long ago, really, in the scale of history and time. So this is the foundation of this education, of this system. Of course, it needs to be revolutionized. Of course, it needs to
Mm-hmm.
change. And it really starts with us. It really starts with us being honest, creating these spaces, being honest about our intentions, and doing the healing within us, which is why I think it's so important when I coach teachers that it is about being honest and
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable and open, and having the space and to feel comfortable to do that and allow healing to happen. So then it ripples out, right? We have to shine from the inside out. And if we can all do that, imagine how powerful that could be. And then we'll see when the system will change. We'll see the structures change. We'll see schools that embrace freedom and not oppress our students, because that's what we see now. We see schools that are extremely oppressive.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Extremely. And they teach oppression, right? Students
Mm-hmm.
learn oppression in our schools, and it's unfortunate. But it's like, that's what it is. I don't think it's good or bad right now. I think it needs to change, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're just so caught up in like, well, this is what we've done for years. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, then why can't we do something different? It's like,
Because people are so overwhelmed by the idea. People get very
Mhm.
overwhelmed about changing a
Yeah,
system.
well, that won't work.
It's
It's
not
like, well, can we just try it for a little bit and see what works and what doesn't? Because we know what's not working. We definitely know what's not working. So let's make those little shifts, little by little. And I think what you're really saying, and I hear you too, is like that change and it's not just in education. I mean, it's everyone. And we share a mentor, the marvelous Margarita Alcantara, and who asks everybody to really look at, what do you believe, and that's that mindset. Like, we have been programmed to believe certain things, and until we question the matrix of what it is that we have told ourselves is truth, and it's like, is that really true or not?
yeah,
No, I don't buy that, because guess what, even though everybody else can believe it's true, you can also make the conscious choice to say, well, that's fine, I'm choose not to believe that. I'm not believing that. I believe, and it's like, what do you want to believe? And that's where I feel, that I mean, I'd always used to hear it, but it never really rang true the way it does now, of Gandhi saying, be the change you want to see. And we all need to embody that. And it begins with us to see, because like you said, you bring that energy into the room, you know, you are what, you know, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and that's what you're creating. And you come into the classroom with that. So if you're already feeling oppressed and that you're behind the eight ball and you can never get ahead, you bring that in there, and you bring it in with your kiddos too. And it's the same thing with parenting, you know. So it's like, yeah, but nobody teaches us how do we take care of everything between the ears, you know. And it's like to get that grounding, to just like, I know what needs to happen, you know. I know what needs to happen, and begin to just do it, to
Yeah.
be it. And I feel like that's what you're doing in these school systems, and then you're wanting to do that as a whole for everyone. And it's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you for taking that on, because it is a huge thing. But I believe too,
It,
more people.
it starts small, you know, like if
Yeah.
people are it's overwhelming if I want to, if I think I'm going to change the system right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, that's going to overwhelm me, but it starts with doing the work yourself,
Mhm.
right? It
Mhm.
really starts that small. It starts
Mhm.
with building awareness within
Mhm.
yourself. It starts with thinking of your purpose.
Mhm.
It starts with so many, it starts with healing your childhood trauma.
Mhm.
Huge thing for me in education because I care about children so much. I really
Mhm.
do. It's this connection I have, and I love children, all the children of the world. I love them. And I think that we actually traumatize our kids in schools.
Mhm. Yeah.
We really do. And we add on, especially when we work with certain communities, we add on to the trauma that many
Mhm.
of our students already experience in their
Mhm.
environment, at their home, in society, in their communities. And it's so unfortunate because a lot of teachers do this on a subconscious level. So it's how
Mhm.
powerful would it be if we bring it to the forefront, if we
Right.
are aware of it, if we
Mhm. Mhm.
decide we're going to heal from whatever
Mhm.
it is that we need healing, and everyone is different. So we can really serve in the way we think we serve right now, because we don't
Mhm.
serve in the way we think we serve right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's true.
making the change, and you know, and being the change you want to see is something that has been used in education for
Yeah.
God knows how long, but
Right.
it's never been done in the right way.
Well, because like how you say, it's not being, how would you say, you're not giving a safe space to even have the discussions. There are so many discussions that need to happen so that people say, well, you know, you're telling me this, but I don't feel it because I don't feel supported in my own job to do what I need to do. You know, here are the things I'm running into. How are you going to support me in order to make that change in my classroom? Because yeah, it becomes with us and then what we do in our little small area, you know, and it's that ripple effect. But one of the things, you know, I it gets me sad to see is like how you mentioned them, the kids end up getting more traumatized by their experiences in school, whether by fellow, you know, classmates, you know, with the teasing and the things like that, or from the teacher who's, you know, maybe fed up and, you know, turns them off to teaching, maybe with something they say, the way they deal with them, you know, just go to the back of the classroom, and then they get turned off to learning. And that's like the really, to me, the scary part and the sad part, because once you stop the enjoyment of learning, then you've stunted your growth as a human being too, right? To just go there. And then I see it when we get into, you know, entrepreneur groups or other stuff, and people already, they still carry that, for what you're saying about the healing, they carry that I'm not good at that, you know, I wasn't good at school, so I can't learn that. And they kept that, you know. It's
And
just so,
it's because so many of these practices that I'm supposed to be coaching teachers around, so many of them are toxic, right?
yeah.
And it's interesting how, and unfortunate how so many practices that are toxic have been normed in schools
Mm,
across the nation. And I'm guilty of that too, right? Because I am a part of this system.
mm,
And I chose not too long ago, I'm not going to participate in that chaos, and I'm going to do something different. Um,
mhm,
I forgive myself for the things that I've done as a teacher too. And I think that there's space for that too, to know
mm,
like I did that. And now like,
mm,
oh, it's a little cringeworthy, and know that
yeah.
that's how I was at that time. And I forgive
Right.
myself for that. And I know that I can do better, and I'm going to move forward from that doing better.
Mm,
But when we don't have that awareness, it's we're just
yeah.
continuing the same vicious
Well,
cycle.
self-awareness is the biggest thing, right? Because we don't even realize the extent that we have been conditioned and programmed. And then even when we do it, you still, we've learned layers, layers, layers. Wow, it's really all the way down there. It's like it goes that deep. It's just like, oh my God,
That's why, like,
Um,
being a spiritual coach and like working with me, it starts with awareness. It starts with
mhm,
like digging deeper because we're so surface, right? Especially,
mhm,
but if you decide like, I want to heal, I want to really tap into my potential, I want
mhm,
to tap into who I am, I want to serve from a place of like of alignment, of
mhm,
purpose, of empowerment, knowing that I'm supported, that I'm
mhm,
protected, that I will have everything I need, and say that to myself and believe it. If you want to reach
mhm,
that place, you need guidance,
mhm.
and it's great because I can be that guide. But of course, like you have to take that step. You have to say I'm ready, and
Yeah.
allow everything else to unfold.
Well, even more than I'm ready is I'm willing.
What
Right? I'm willing.
I'm going to
And the other part of that is, and it can be a heavy word, but it's like it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility because it's also our responsibility to ourselves. And if we say we're going to serve other people and we have our own healing we need to do for ourselves, it's like it's my responsibility to take care of this. So how I say sometimes to the ladies I work with too is like, okay, well, if you can't do it for you, then do it for, because what we how many times we can do so many things for our family, friends, our students, and we'll go this extra mile, but we don't do it for ourselves.
yeah,
We don't do it to ourselves. We don't feel ourselves worthy and understand that we are worth the investment, that we're worth to give that love and stuff, that we have to do it to ourselves first so we have more to give. And it's just this big lesson, as you see too. It's just constant coming up. I have to give more to, if I'm going to keep giving more to out there, I have to keep giving more in here, you
yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot to give. We
Oh,
can't just
oh yeah.
there's a lot to give, there's a lot to receive. You just have to be open to that. So, and
Yeah,
willing,
yeah,
willing to
yeah.
do that work. But I agree, it is our responsibility, especially teachers. I always
Mm-hmm,
felt like it's a social responsibility when you're a teacher, to
mm-hmm.
really take care of yourself, to really
Oh, yeah.
be disciplined and show up for yourself and
Mm-hmm.
heal what needs to be healed and be in that process and love yourself because that's what you teach to. And
Right. We teach by example.
a limited perspective and a limited
Mhm,
mind,
mhm,
and that's what you teach, unfortunately,
mhm.
and that's what a lot of teachers teach right now because if we have time, do we have time? I have a little story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it, and we'll wrap it up.
It was something that was like very monumental to me, meeting with my teachers, and one of my teachers, she was really confused. She was upset because she had a conversation with a student who said, students, something along the lines of like, why is this even important? Like, this won't
Mm,
matter in 2 years. The student is not completely wrong, to be honest. And so she was like, well, I never want her to feel that way. I want her to feel like school is really important. It's going to help her in
mhm,
the future. And I'm like, yeah, well, learning is, school doesn't, right? So learning is that's what we're really talking about.
mhm,
We use the
mhm,
two things synonymously. But she's like, I don't want her to feel that way. And so I asked her. So I asked a lot of questions. So how do you want her to feel? Oh,
mhm,
I want her to feel like she's loved and supported in this space, that this is going to help her. It's going to help her grow and she can do whatever she wants to do. Okay. So she wants her to feel empowered. And I said, okay, well, do you feel that way about yourself?
Ooh.
And it was like radio silence. And she was like, you know what, Sasha? You're And like, well, I want us to really think. We want our students to feel a certain way. We don't feel that way about
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah,
So how do we teach to that? How is it
yeah.
possible that we're teaching to that?
Well, even one step further too, if you don't feel that yourself, but you don't feel like you have an environment that is conducive to that,
Yeah.
then you can say all day long, but it'd be like, you want to say that, but yet you have, alcoholic parents in the house. It's like that's not going to happen, right? And I think what you're really saying, and it was a beautiful story to like wrap up what I remember you saying in one of your Instagram, your IGTV, was we as teachers interact with the future every day.
Mhm.
And that was like really powerful, I felt, because it is, you're interacting and influencing the future. every day in your classrooms. Like, and it's that, you're either inspiring them, to want to learn, to be more, I don't know, just inquisitive, and to just learn about themselves. And like you said, just to realize that they are a gift as well. And so are we doing that in our schools? It's not just about the test scores. It's about them as a whole person and going out into the world.
And I really think that embracing that too and shifting whatever structures need to be shifted and recreated, the test scores will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Kids will perform greatly on those test scores. It will not be an issue. The issue is teaching and learning. The issue is how we teach. The issue is our schools. The issue is how we coach and develop teachers. The issue is our intentions, our mindset. That's the issue. The test will be the test. It doesn't matter. But building a school that embraces freedom in every respect of the word, the kids will be amazing on tests. Whatever test they take, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, with that, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and close how you would like anyone to follow up with you, what you offer, just so they know like why you're on here, because I just think what you're doing on so many levels is so beautiful, Sasha, and I want them to know what would you like to say to the audience.
Sure. One thing I can say is that you have the power to live the life you want to live.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes and keep walking in that direction. And then things will show up for you. Anything you need will show up. And this might be a sign for you. You can find me on my Instagram, The Evolved Educator. It's on that ticker down there.
And in the description below.
Do a lot of affirmations on my Instagram. I've done live meditations on my Instagrams. You'll see a lot of the tools that I use to help and to coach teachers, but also the tools that I use to coach women who want to live that life that they've desired and that they dream of. And you can click the link on my bio once you get on my Instagram, and you'll see everything that I offer. Or send me a DM. We can chat and see how I can help you if this resonates with you in any way.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So yes, please look up Sasha G, energy healer, evolved revolutionary educator. And yeah, just a powerful starseed at large. So thank you so much for your gifts, for your message, and for your service that you do all the time. It's very, very, very appreciated. And I'm sorry that it doesn't get more appreciated, but yeah, I'm just going to blast that at you right now.
I receive it. Thank you.
And to all the teachers out there. And so anyone who sees this, please pay this forward to another teacher, another woman that you know that could use this, that she might be stuck at home with her kids and feeling like an at-home school teacher as well, and wants to evolve and make that shift. So thank you again, Sasha, and everyone out there. Stay happy, healthy, positive, and of course, enjoy the rest of your never before lived day. Cheers.